Three. Hello, everyone. This is Polyglot Podcast. I'm Christian from Finland. I'm now in Rovaniemi, and today we have Hope from South Africa talking about the languages of South Africa and I guess Zambia as well, because if I understood correctly, you're a Zambian living in
Yes.
South Africa. So we will speak about Hope's language background and also languages spoken in Zambia, South Africa, and her language journey. So let's start. First of all, can you briefly introduce who are you?
Okay, so perfect day, everyone. My name is Hope Gomezgya. I was born in South Africa, in Zambia, but I currently live in Cape Town, South Africa. I am 21 years young, and yeah, I love languages. I like to call myself a polyglot, but maybe not so much. I just love languages, and so that is how come I am able to speak at least four languages currently. But yeah.
So let's start from Zambia. So where exactly were you born?
So I was born in Kitwe in Zambia. But because I moved to South Africa when I was so young, it's always difficult for me to really articulate my upbringing in Zambia. I lived there for about 2 years, the first 2 years of my life. But I mainly know that I was born in Kitwe, and that is a Bemba speaking area, city, province in Zambia. So, yeah.
So your moms and dads sides of the family are all from Kitwe or all around from Zambia?
Okay, so this is where it gets interesting, right? So my mom is Lozi and Tumbuka. So these are now different tribes in Zambia. Tumbuka is either Zambian or Malawian. It can be both.
Yeah.
So my mom was half, right? So her mom was Lozi, her dad was Tumbuka, and she grew up with her mom, so she speaks mainly Lozi. Then my dad is also Tumbuka, so he's also the Zambian Malawian mix. And so when the two of them met and they got married, they realized that because my mom mainly spoke Lozi and my dad mainly spoke Tumbuka, they had to have common ground, right, to be able to communicate. And so the common grounds just so happened to be Bemba, which is how come we are a Bemba speaking family. And that's how come I was born in Kitwe.
So at the time when you were born, your mom spoke Lozi with her side of the family, like your grandparents and your dad Tumbuka, right? Or
Yes,
no,
exactly.
it was a mix. Like your dad spoke Tumbuka and some other language to your grandparents, to his parents.
So my dad mainly spoke Tumbuka. Obviously,
Okay,
he could like communicate in other Zambian languages,
yeah,
but he was mainly Tumbuka, yeah.
yeah. And when you were born, then your parents started speaking Bemba together to each other.
Yes, 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 yes.
But still they were speaking like to your other relatives, also Tumbuka
Mm.
and Bemba, Lozi.
Yes, exactly.
And I guess you were then used to hearing these three languages, Lozi, Tumbuka, Bemba.
Yeah. So we would have like phone calls with my dad's side of the family, and we'll try and speak Tumbuka, but I swear that was one language that I could just never grasp. And then obviously when we speak to my mom's side of the family, we'll try and speak Lozi. And my Lozi is a bit better than my Tumbuka, but mainly it was Bemba in the family.
So did your parents, what language did they speak when they were speaking to you when you were like a baby?
So actually their aim was to have us speak English, right?
Yeah.
And my dad tells it, and my parents tell it that they spoke Bemba when they didn't want us to understand. So we spoke
Okay.
English with them. They would speak Bemba to each other. But obviously, if they're speaking to each other like 24 hours a day, we're going to grasp a few words. And so we kind of learned Bemba indirectly, not because they were intentionally trying to teach us, but because it's the language they spoke to each other and they were with each other all the time. So we picked it up. But when they spoke to us, it was English mostly, mainly.
Oh, okay. So four languages actually. You were like used to hearing English
It's a big
plus this.
mix.
Yeah. This is interesting because I have a child who's like 16 months now, and I
Mhm,
speak only Finnish, and my wife is Ukrainian who speaks Russian
mhm.
as mother tongue. So she speaks only Russian. So Finnish and Russian. So it's interesting to hear your story that like you were hearing four languages, your parents spoke English to you together, Bemba, and then to their own sides of the family, Lozi and Tumbuka.
Yeah.
Um, Bemba, Lozi, and Tumbuka, are they all Bantu languages?
Yes. So they are all Bantu languages from Southern Africa. Yeah.
Yeah, and how close are they?
I would say that Tumbuka and Bemba would be a bit closer, but they are quite, I will say they're quite different. Bemba is more like Nyanja, if you've ever heard of Nyanja. And then Tumbuka is more like Chewa, if you've ever heard of Chewa.
Yeah.
Then Lozi is more like Sutu, if you've ever heard of Sutu. So they are like in three different categories of their own.
Mm.
Um, and I wouldn't say they're that close, honestly. Yeah.
So if someone spoke Lozi, they couldn't understand that much Bemba or Tumbuka.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I checked some basic information because I think many people who are listening don't know much about like non-European languages, especially African
Mm-hmm.
languages. So I found these figures that Bemba has around 4.1 million speakers. I don't know how like precise these are. Sometimes they are
Mm-hmm.
pretty like outdated the numbers on Wikipedia, but so Bemba is mostly spoken in Zambia,
Mm-hmm.
uh, the two Congos and Tanzania. Is it mostly in
Yes.
Zambia and small pockets in these other countries as well?
Yes. So it's common to find Congolese people that speak Bemba, but it's mainly a Zambian language. I
Yeah.
think there's an area in Zambia where it borders with Congo. So that area would be the
Mm.
area where it needs to speak different dialects of Bemba. But yeah.
And as uh, you have lived mostly in South Africa, have you had much exposure to different dialects of Bemba spoken in like different parts of Zambia, Congo, and
Um, Not really. It's difficult for me to speak on dialects, like you said, because I was raised in South Africa. It's a bit tricky for me to speak on dialects. But I do know that the the Congolese and Zambian Bemba would be different because of that, yeah.
yeah. And then Lozi is the smallest of these, so under 1 million, like 700,000 speakers in Angola, Botswana, Namibia, South Africa, Zambia, Zimbabwe. But again, is it mostly in Zambia? Which are the like main countries where Lozi is spoken?
Yeah, so Lozi is a Zambian language. And then, like I said, Lozi has, I would say, like a relation to languages like Tswana and Sutu. So Tswana is found in Botswana and then also in South Africa. And then Sutu is found in Lesotho, also in South Africa. So it's like the languages are very similar. But if you want to think of Lozi, you're thinking of Zambia. If you're thinking of Tswana, you're thinking of Botswana. If you're
Yeah.
thinking of Sutu, you're thinking of Lesotho. So yeah.
Yeah. Are we talking about Soto, Northern Soto, or I mean, there are many Soto languages.
Okay, so I'm
Northern
not really
Soto,
familiar
Southern
with
Soto, maybe.
Sutu. I think the difference between northern and southern would be that northern is for Lesotho and then
Yeah,
southern is for South
South
Africa,
Africa.
I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then Tumbuka. Actually, this was the only language I hadn't heard before. Uh, so when I watched your video and you mentioned Tumbuka, I hadn't heard about it, but it has like more than 7 million speakers, and I'm like, whoa, big languages compared to, for example, Finnish, which is spoken only
Mm,
by 5.5 million. So
mm.
Tumbuka is spoken in Malawi, Tanzania, and Zambia.
Yeah,
Is
that's
but the Tanzanian part is maybe just the like areas bordering with Malawi,
yeah,
maybe.
yeah. Because I think Tanzania is known for Swahili, so it would just be the parts that where the two countries meet. I think that would have
Yeah,
the similarity. Yeah.
yeah, okay. And before we continue, I have one surprise section here. So I have 8 phrases here that I'm going to try to say in Bemba.
Okay.
I use Google Translate, so we will see also
Okay.
how good Google Translate is, and also I don't know how to pronounce the language, but after I say one phrase, you will translate it into English and also correct. You will also show how to say it correctly. But before I start, I want to ask a few questions. Are there click sounds in Bemba?
No.
No. Okay. All right. I'll try. Mwapoleni bonze. Mwapoleni bonze.
Okay. Um, Mwapolan, Mwapolani. Okay, okay. I hear what you're trying to say. Mwapoleni wonse. So the B is not hard. It's almost like a W. So you want to say wonse.
Won. Wonze.
Yes,
Ah, okay. Is it always
yes,
like that? The B is like more like
yes, yes, yes. So
Wonze.
even when you say the word Bemba, I say Bemba because I'm speaking English. But when I'm speaking Bemba, I would say Bemba.
Wemba. Okay. So
Mhm.
can you tell people what I said or tried to say?
So Mwapoleni wonse means you're it's like a greeting. So Mwapoleni would be like you're well, and then wonse is everyone. So it's like a greeting for everyone. If you enter a room, you'd say Mwapoleni wonse.
Okay. Yeah, I tried to say hello everyone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ishina Liandi ni Christian.
Nice.
Can you now
So
repeat maybe tell your name and like
okay,
what I said here?
so I would say Ishinali Andini Hope.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
English
That
translation
means
for the people?
yes, so that means my name is Hope or my name is Christian. Yeah.
Yeah. I've studied a bit Swahili, so I'm just trying to read it like Swahili. So I guess that's
Okay.
working quite okay. Nafuma ku Finland.
Okay, so Nafumaku, Zambia, which means I am from Zambia, I'm from Finland. Yeah.
Yeah. Ndeikala mu Rovaniemi.
Okay. Ndikala ku Cape Town. I stay in Cape Town or I stay in the country, the city that you stay
Yeah,
in.
Rovaniemi. It's a bit hard. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I try to say yeah, I live, but I live
Mhm.
and I stay. It's the same.
Same thing, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Rovaniemi ni Nyanda Yaba ba Santa Claus.
Okay, so say again.
Rovaniemi ni Nyanda Yaba ba Santa Claus.
Okay, so that would be the city that you named
Yeah.
is the home of Santa Claus, right?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Next one. Ndi ne miaka makumi ya tatu na ine.
Okay, so the
Miaka,
age. Okay,
yeah,
so yeah, the age. You're speaking of age, yes.
yeah,
So I would say the nyanga ya 21 or imona ya really.
yeah. So I said I'm 34 years old, and I think in Swahili, miaka, it's age is miaka, I
Yes.
think.
It's quite similar, yeah.
Yeah. And four is ne, I think in Swahili. And
Mm-hmm.
tatu, ya tatu, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's the 30. I don't remember, but tatu, I think is free.
Yeah, it
Then,
is.
yeah. So yeah, I see some similar words, and also ni, like is the same. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
two more.
Okay.
Nali. Okay, sometimes it's hard to read my own, like what I've written. Nalitemwa ukusambilila ifitundo.
Okay. Naitemo kusambila ifi tundu. I like
And
to learn languages.
yeah, and the last one, Twatasha kabili twaya bwino.
Okay. Twatasha ka. Say again,
Kabili,
Twatasha.
Twatasha Twatasha kabili twaya bwino.
Okay. Twatasha kabili twaya wino. Yeah.
Yeah,
So we appreciate it and go well or fair, like a goodbye greeting. Yeah.
yeah. So thanks and goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for the corrections. It was interesting trying that.
You
So,
did very well, though.
oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm just happy it didn't have too much like the click sounds because those are hard because there are so many different click sounds in some
Yeah, the
languages.
click sounds are mostly known for Xhosa, which is a South African language. So yeah,
Yeah, but I guess Zulu also has,
a few, but not so many as Xhosa would. Yeah.
yeah. But then there's the one language which has like 100 or which is written like XOO. Like
Yes, that is
oh her.
Xhosa. Yes.
No, I think not Xhosa, but there was one language which has even more. It has like
Maybe that's the original language from the Khoisan.
it is one of them.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, let's continue. So why did your family move to South Africa when you were 2 years old? Was it work or studies?
So my dad moved first. He moved alone. And I assume, I don't think I've never asked him this, but I assume it was for work purposes. And then about a year later, that's when my mom, my sister, and I also moved to follow him here in Cape Town.
Yeah. So since you were 2 years old, you've lived in Cape Town.
Mhm.
Yeah. And Cape Town, is it mostly English or Afrikaans speaking area?
I would say most areas in South Africa are English speaking, right? But I would say then the second would be a predominantly Afrikaans speaking province and city. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you sometimes hear Afrikaans as well.
Hmm.
And what other languages can you hear when you're just walking around in the city and hearing people speak?
So usually interactions are in Xhosa. That's also like I would say maybe the third most spoken language in Cape Town. Like you could be shopping and the cashier will just speak to you in Xhosa. It's
Yeah.
very common. Obviously Zulu as well. I would say if it's not English, it is Xhosa, Zulu, or Afrikaans. And then obviously there's foreign nationals as well. So you'll hear languages from Zimbabwe like Shona, or you'll hear, yeah, I think those four, I would say. Xhosa, Afrikaans, English, Zulu, or Shona as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's reminded me about the statistics I found about for whole of South Africa that like the biggest first language is Zulu with 20 around 25%. Xhosa with second with 15, 16%. Afrikaans third like 12, 13. or I'm not sure what's written actually here, but I guess it's like 12. And then fourth is Sepedi with 910. Tswana fifth, 9%, and English is the sixth. I saw that around 10 years ago it used to be third or fourth, but now English is the sixth biggest first language with 8.4 uh, percent of people speaking it, which is surprising because I mean it's surprising that the biggest five are spoken by 71% in total. That the number one is just 25% Zulu. Because in most of the countries of the world, like in Finland's case, 85% of the population speaks Finnish, the biggest language, me including. And in some countries, it's like 90, 95. So when I was like seeing these percentages that they are very, very small, like for the top five, like that
Yeah,
tells how multicultural the country is.
it is very, very.
And do you know about the motto of South Africa? Have you heard about this? This is in a extinct language. I was like checking out the basic information about South Africa, and sometimes you see the mottos. And in South Africa's case, the motto was in English, unity in diversity, and in
Yeah,
the original language, which is Ikam. It's I don't know how to say the motto, but the motto of South Africa is in a extinct language, but
yeah, yeah.
I don't know if they teach about this in school, or do you remember
Yeah.
hearing
They
this?
do. So in primary school history, we learned about the coat of arms of the country, and then the motto is written on the coat of arms. If I remember correctly, because I was in primary school a while ago,
Yeah,
but I think it's pronounced Ikiri, Ikari, Ike. So with the clicks, it would probably be a bit different. But if you want to just pronounce it generally, you would say Ikiri, Ikari, Ike, which is, like you said, unity in diversity.
yeah, yeah. Here it says like Ike Ikara Ike, but I guess the K's and X's are click sounds.
Yeah, yeah,
So I'm not going to try it, but yeah, so maybe in the future video, someone who speaks Xhosa or Zulu can can
yeah.
say it how it should be said correctly. And in school, did you learn the national anthem? Because I saw that it's in five languages, the verses.
Mhm. Yeah, we did. We learned that in history as well. Around grade six, they teach it to you in history. And we also had, when you have like school assemblies, we would have to sing the national anthem. So we're all very familiar with the national anthem and all its
Yeah,
languages.
yeah. Okay. Was it difficult to learn the song or
No, actually, I think because we did it from like grade one
yeah,
until grade 12, at some point it's second nature, you know?
yeah,
So no, I don't remember ever us struggling to sing the national anthem.
yeah. So every South African knows the anthem.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, South Africa has 11 official languages, but only five of them are in the national anthem. Is there any has there any times been discussion that they want to have like all the official languages, or was the national anthem? I guess it was created before South Africa introduced that it has 11 official languages, or do you know about this?
Yeah. So when it comes to the number of official languages and then the languages in the anthem, I think that is mostly based on the similarities with the languages, right? So languages like Pedi, Sutu, and Tswana are so similar that having all of them in the national anthem
Yeah.
would be repetitive.
Okay.
So it's a case of even if there were a petition to add all 11, it wouldn't change much because they're quite similar. But I think that's it's subjective. I think it's a bit like some people would obviously want it. I mean, if your language is not represented there, you
Yeah.
want it. But for the most part, the whole country agrees that as it is, it's good and it represents enough, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
thinking, are there like people who speak the six remaining ones and are like, I want my language also in the national
I would
anthem.
assume that they
Yeah.
are, but because the
Yeah.
languages are so similar, and because for the most part, South Africans identify with each other, so they
Hmm.
don't feel like they have to, you know, have their language there if
Yeah.
a language that's so similar to yours is already there, you know?
Yeah. So, what age are you in South Africa when you started school, like grade one? Is it 6 or 7 years old or five?
It's 7. So you would be 6 turning 7 during that year. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And your education was completely in English?
Yes.
And in what grades do you start different languages like Afrikaans, or is Afrikaans mandatory?
So every province has its own second additional language. So besides English, during your school in English, there's another language out of the 12, out of the 11 that you would have to do as well. Some provinces have it the other way around, where, for example, you would do school in Zulu and then English would be like your additional language. But every school has two languages, English and something else. I did school in English, but then Afrikaans was my additional language. And that started for me in grade 3. But my nephew is currently in grade 1 and he started in grade 1. So I think it's just different times and how they've changed things. But yeah, everyone does two languages if you're in school in South Africa.
So grade three, you had Afrikaans and Zulu.
So in grade 3, I had Afrikaans and English
Afrikaans and English, yeah.
as subjects.
Okay. And in your free time, I guess communication with your friends was mostly in English or also other
Yeah,
languages?
it was in English. But that's also, it depends. There was a point in time where I had friends that were mainly Xhosa, and they would speak to each other in Xhosa, and
Yeah.
you kind of just, you start to understand. But sometimes you'll be in a place where maybe most of your friends are foreign nationals, and you all speak to each other in English. So yeah, it just depends. I went to a few schools, so I had different experiences with how I did things.
And what languages more your friend group spoke? In addition to Mosa, which ones? And English, of course.
English, yeah, English, yeah. And then if it wasn't Xhosa English, it would probably be something like Zulu, you know. But it was mainly either Xhosa or English, yeah.
Yeah. And later in school, did you have optional languages that you started learning?
When I went to high school, my high school was now an international school. So when I went to high school, then we had German and Spanish on top of English and
Yeah.
Afrikaans, but they were optional. So it was like if you want to, but you don't have to. I didn't want to because I
Yeah.
started in grade 9. So trying to learn Spanish in grade 9 was just no. So I just stuck to English and Afrikaans.
Yeah. So you tried Spanish in grade nine, but didn't
Yeah, I tried
enjoy it.
before I enrolled. So I tried to take a few lessons to see if I would manage. I tried both Spanish and German, and I just did not. Yeah, no.
Yeah. Was it too much in the addition to all other languages and all your school, or you just didn't have
Yeah,
the
yeah.
interest?
I love languages, so the interest was there.
Yeah.
I really wanted to push to do it, but it was a case of, doing so many subjects and changing curriculums because I was doing now a Cambridge curriculum, which is just much harder than the official curriculum of South Africa, which I came from. So I wanted not to overload myself
Mm.
by learning a whole new language. So it was mostly a case of not wanting to be overwhelmed with too much, but the love for languages was there. So yeah.
Can you remember when did you get the love for languages?
I think as I became a teenager, as I grew older, you're like, you want to explore the world, right? And how
Mm.
do you start exploring the world? By exploring its languages.
Yeah.
You're also exploring accents on the other side of that. So when you're consuming American culture, you're consuming American accents, and you're learning about the different accents in New York and Texas and all of that. And then
Yeah.
you're thinking, oh, but I actually love Italy as well. So you start
Yeah.
learning Italian because you want to go to Italy.
Yeah.
So yeah, as I became a teenager, it was just this thing of wanting to travel. So you start like trying to pick up languages as much as you can in the media that you're consuming. Yeah.
So you studied Italian on your own.
Yeah, I'm still studying Italian right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what kind of media did you consume? Was it YouTube, Netflix, something else?
I loved YouTube, especially as like a preteen. So it was mostly YouTube. Yeah, I was a YouTube teenager. Yeah.
Yeah. And what did you usually watch?
I loved watching vlogs. So the vlogs of the teenagers that lived in like LA, or I would watch if I wanted to watch more like European movies or anything, then that's when I would be on Netflix, trying to watch Italian movies. There was at some point I wanted to learn Swahili, so I was trying to watch Swahili movies on Netflix, trying to look for a few. There were very few, but I tried to find some.
Yeah.
So I was hopping between YouTube and Netflix trying to learn languages. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've also done with my wife. We are watching all the time, like almost all the non-English
Yeah.
shows. Like the last 1 or 2 years, it's been mostly Korean and
Okay.
also like one Chinese and every now and then also some other languages. But yeah, it's a really good way.
Mm.
And so in your childhood and teenage years, you all the time spoke English with your parents.
Yes. So switching between English and Bemba, a mixture of both, but yeah, mostly
Okay, so
English.
you use Bemba a bit, like the mixture English and
Yeah.
Bemba. Yeah.
Hmm.
And how often did you go to Zambia? And do you have still a lot of relatives living there?
Yes. So I would say a good 80 to 90% of my relatives are in Zambia. But as for us going to Zambia, the last time I went, I was four. So it's not
Really?
often at all. Yeah.
Whoa. So you haven't
Mm,
been that many times actually in Zambia.
no.
Would you want to go there more often?
Yeah, 100%. I would love to. We don't travel much. So even traveling in South Africa, I literally have not left Western Cape or Cape Town since I was four. So it's a
Yeah.
case of like we just don't travel as much. That's why I love languages because that's my way of traveling, traveling from the comfort of my home. But yeah, we just don't travel much, but I would love to. Like, if I could go between Zambia and South Africa every month, I would.
Yeah.
That's home because as a third culture kid, it's that thing of both places are not home. South Africa is not home, but then because I don't know Zambia, it's also
Yeah.
not home.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
if I had that ability to be able to travel, I think I would feel more connected to home.
Yeah, I understand. I understand that. My mom is Finnish. My dad is Sri Lankan, but I have been in my dad's country only twice. I don't speak his language. We speak
Mm,
only Finnish in my family, and like Finland is
mm,
like my only home because Sri Lanka is like a foreign country to me because it's like weird customs, weird culture, and language.
mm.
But I would definitely want to go there much more
Yeah.
in so in Zambia, would Bemba be the best language to know if you have to pick one language to be able to speak with the locals? Well, if it's not English, I guess everyone also speaks
Mhm.
English. But
Yeah.
if we don't count English, then would it be Bemba?
I would actually say Nyanja over Bemba.
Okay.
I think Nyanja is a bit more common. I actually 90% of my family speaks more of Nyanja than Bemba.
Oh,
So yeah, I think Nyanja, if you want to fit in Zambia, Nyanja would be your better option.
yeah. And maybe we can mention a few things about Zambia. The things that come into my mind first are, well, copper. I think I saw some documentary about copper that like 90% of the exports are copper, but the country doesn't get much of it because the big companies like, they have these corrupt deals with the government. But that
Yeah.
Zambia is a huge copper country. And also, is it between Zambia and Zimbabwe, the Victoria Falls?
Yes. Yes. Mhm.
What else would you want to tell people about Zambia? What should people know about Zambia?
Hmm. That's a tricky one, considering I don't know much myself.
Yeah,
But I think Zambia it's diverse, I think. And it's the type of country that is welcoming, right? I think the people are very friendly, the people are very open to receive people. So yeah, it's I don't know. It's a bit tricky for me to really um promote it in a way because I don't know much myself. But from what I've heard, it's a beautiful country and it has um, more than just Victoria Falls. It has amazing game drives. So that's all.
yeah. Are there some frequent questions that people ask you when they hear your family is from Zambia?
Yeah, they asked me how's life there, and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Everyone is like, so what's Zambia like? And I'm like, I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah. I understand when people ask me about Sri Lanka. I'm like, I mean, I know as much as you can find out on Wikipedia. Well, okay, I've
Yeah.
also been twice traveling there, so I know something, but it's on a
Mhm.
surface level. So yeah, I understand your feeling there. And when did you finish high school? Was it like a couple of years ago?
Yeah, I finished high school in 2021.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And after that, what did you do?
So after high school, I took a bit of a gap year. It wasn't a full year because I ended up starting university in October 2022. So from like January to October, I was just, relaxing. After surviving high school, I needed a few months to relax.
Yeah.
Um, and then I started university. I did an associate's degree with an American university online, and then I finished my associates in January this year. So then I've started my bachelor's now in March, like a few days ago. So
Yeah.
now I'm doing a Bachelor of Arts in Communication. So yeah.
Yeah. Arts and communication.
Mhm.
Yeah. What does it actually mean? What kind of subjects do you and courses do you have?
So because I've just started, I'm still warming up to it. But currently, I am just learning how to communicate through like written communication. I'm looking forward to the part where I get to learn about spoken communication. So it's mainly the ethics of communication that I've started with right now.
Yeah. And in the future, when you graduate, do you want to like combine somehow your studies with languages? I guess because it's related to communication. Uh, so do you want to, what kind of job do you want? What do you want to do in the future? Do you want to use your language skills and learn more languages, or what would your like dream profession look like in the future?
So my dream profession is actually education. So at some point I want to, I, by the grace of God, I've been given a mandate to work on education in Africa. And so that's why I was kind of learning Swahili and Zulu, just trying to prepare myself for what I am called to do in the future. But yeah, my dream job is just to work on the education system in Africa, travel around Africa, and really um, sort a few things out in that area. And so I reckon that I will be needing lots of languages because the
Yeah.
languages in Africa are diverse. I mean, when you go to North Africa, there's Arabic, you go to West Africa, there's Yoruba, you go to East
Mm.
Africa, there's Tanzania, Southern Africa. So
Yeah.
I'm going to
Yeah.
have to learn a lot of languages.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So you don't want to teach, but you want to, like help structuring the education
yes,
system more, make
yes,
it,
exactly.
yeah, okay. And do you have any geographic regions where to start in South Africa or where?
Yeah, I definitely want to start in Southern Africa. I reckon I'll start in Zambia. South Africa is a very difficult country to penetrate through, especially with something as heavy as reforming an education system,
Mm.
especially when you are not a native South African. So I reckon I would have more success starting from Zambia as a fellow Zambian and all of that. So I'll start from Zambia. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds really interesting, and hopefully in the future we can, when you have like traveled all around Africa, helping to reform the education system. Maybe we can make a new episode in Swahili because I want to I want to learn Swahili better. I was like one of my
Yeah.
good friends. He's Finnish and Tanzanian, so but he doesn't speak fluent Swahili. He's trying to learn it, and I was with him in Tanzania 6, 7 years ago. So in the future, I definitely want to go back there and like East Africa, learn Swahili, and yeah. So maybe we will do that in the future.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
yeah. What else? Oh yeah, what about your language learning methods and resources? You have already mentioned like school courses, Netflix, YouTube. Are there other methods or resources that you want to share people what you use when you learn languages?
So I love using Duolingo. I'm sure you've heard of it.
I've used it, yeah.
Um, yeah, so Duolingo I think that's primarily where I try to learn languages, especially when it comes to things like Italian. My current streak for Italian is 175 days,
Yeah.
so I should be fluent soon.
Yeah. 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 I actually made YouTube videos about the craziest Duolingo phrases. And
Really,
yeah,
I
and
should
when
check
I,
that out.
I'll show you later.
Mhm,
And when we started making those with my wife when we were not yet married, she started using Duolingo from that,
mhm.
like when she was preparing for the episode, and she hasn't stopped. So it's now something like day 1,600, 700. So,
That's impressive.
and I made her a cake when she reached 1,000. So when she reaches 2,000 in, I think it's going to be this year. So I have to bake a new cake, and I made from candies Duolingo, the owl. But it didn't look like Duolingo, but I tried. I tried. It was really
That's
terrible
so
looking.
sweet.
Yeah, it was. I just bought like ice cream, and then I just put some candy that looked a bit like Duolingo. So I'll make something similar again.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Um, Is there still something we didn't talk about here? Language
Um,
related.
no, I don't think so. We've quite covered a few things. Yeah.
Yeah, we covered a lot of things. Yeah. Do you have something in the end to say to people about language learning and about anything? Like final
Um,
words.
Final words. Okay, I will say that it's very common in Zambia for people to speak multiple languages, which I think is more common in Zambia for people to speak multiple languages than in South Africa. That is why we have me having parents that are Tumbuka and Lozi and Bemba and the whole mixture with English and all of that. Whereas in South Africa, it's like people are very tribalistic, and so they would rather stick to their own language. But I guess that's just differences in culture. But I think the two exposures to the two different lifestyles have made me love languages. And learning languages, I mean, Afrikaans was my best subject in high school. And so, yeah, I love learning new languages. It's my way of travel, and I think everybody should do that. It's a good hobby to have, to just want to expose yourself to things outside your own atmosphere. Especially when you're primarily English speaking, you want to have that exposure to more, because you won't always be where you are. Sometimes you'll have to
Yeah.
travel, and just being able to greet in another language is something special. So yeah.
Thanks for the discussion and these final words. So everyone who was listening, learn languages, and yeah, that's all for this time. And we will see you in the next episode again. Bye.
Bye.